Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for this week's episode of When I Grew Up. On today's episode, it is my pleasure to welcome Mimi Song. Hey Mimi, how are you?
Hello.
Thanks so much for being here with me.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited. I don't think a lot of people know about my profession. I know I didn't know my profession even existed. So I'm very excited to share.
Yeah, okay, so Mimi is here to talk to us about her job and her day-to-day as a certified nurse midwife. I know the acronym for that is CNM. And I'm excited because as a mom of two and going through the birthing process and labor and all that, I have like a lot of questions on about being a midwife.
Mhm.
But let me ask you, like, what is a midwife?
So a midwife, I'm sure people have heard of like granny midwives or things like that, but a certified nurse midwife is a medically trained healthcare provider that specializes in women's health, ranging from the very beginning of puberty all the way up through menopause. And then, of course, addition to just general women's health care from annual exams, pap smears, breast exams, any, discomfort with women's genitalia. There is the big part of pregnancy. So we take care of women in home settings, office settings, hospital settings, and we see patients in the office, but then throughout the prenatal care from beginning to end, and then we can also assist in deliveries or be the person who delivers babies.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so I work there's different types of midwives, but I am one that works in an office setting during the week, and then I deliver babies on call in the hospital. And my hospitals that I deliver out of are Emory Johns Creek and Northside Forsyth.
Um, okay, so I feel a little bit like ignorant in knowing what a midwife is, because everything you just said, I guess, like, I don't know, growing up I just thought the word midwife meant like delivering babies.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
But I guess it's really cool that you are actually seeing patients in that capacity as well. Now, how is that different than an OBGYN doctor?
So we basically do everything an OBGYN does, except our approach is going to be more a holistic approach. And certified nurse midwives, we don't have to go through medical school. So the biggest difference that you would see is we cannot do surgery. So
Mhm.
if there is a birth that has to happen by a C-section, or if there are GYN issues of irregular bleeding, irregular cycles that require surgery, we would not be certified to do that. But otherwise, in the full scope of women's health care practice, we're able to do that. So in the office setting, if it's birth control or contraception management, we can do that. We can prescribe medication. And there's different types of midwives. So there is like your lay midwife who, in more rural areas may not have any medical training, and they just have experience delivering babies in the barn.
Mm.
There is a certified midwife or a CM or a certified professional midwife. They go through not as intense of a training program. It's more short term, and their focus is just delivering babies. And it's different state by state, but license wise, lay midwives or certified professional midwives may not be um, licensed in certain states. Like Georgia does not recognize certified professional midwives or lay midwives.
Mm.
And so if there was ever any complications that led to a lawsuit, then the patient would have to completely take full risk. And certified professional midwives may not have a requirement where they would have a backup physician in case of an emergency, or they may not have credentials at a hospital if there was a reason where the birth had to be taken outside of a home setting or, birthing center, they may not have those privileges. Whereas for us, as certified nurse midwives, we are licensed in the state of Georgia, so we have protection, but there's also kind of things that kind of protect us, but also are there to protect patients too.
Okay.
Mhm,
Wow.
mhm,
Okay. That's really interesting. So,
mhm,
the midwife, you said in the home setting, is that someone
mhm,
that would do like a home birth too?
mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Okay.
And there are certified nurse midwives who do home births, who have connections to hospitals, and who have backup physicians available who can prescribe medications and things like that. And they can do full, like, uh, annual visits, lab work, all in the home setting. But then there's also, you'll find, like, if you do a Google search of midwife, you'll
Mhm.
also be able to find just certified professional midwives who may not have that available to them. Some will claim that they do, but that's something that people would have to really watch out for if they are looking for a home birth. I think it's a great option if you have a low risk pregnancy. But if you're going to do one, I would recommend one with a certified nurse midwife.
Okay, that's good
Hmm.
to know.
Hmm.
Um, you used the word holistic, a little bit more
Hmm.
holistic. What does that mean?
I think we take into account like the whole being and like especially like when we look at pregnancy, we don't see it as an illness. It's a part of life. And so we might use more homeopathic things.
Mm,
When it comes to pain management, our first goal may not be like, let's rush to medicine. We might say, let's try massage, let's try chiropractic care, acupuncture, let's try different herbal medications, teas, um, and then, of course, like exercise, diet is going to be important. What are a lot of things that we can do as a preventative measure to prevent things from getting to a point of illness? And then when we do get to a point of illness or we're sick and those homeopathic things may not be managing, our concern, then we can turn to, medicine and there's like a wide range. Some, will consider themselves like a very granola midwife. So everything is like natural and organic and
right.
vegan and blah, blah, blah. Um, for me, I'm like kind of in the middle. I like a mix of both. Um, like I think there's amazing, amazing things in medicine, but then I also see great benefits of natural things that you can do outside of medicine. So I think that is our lens that we view from is just an approach of looking at um, as a woman from the whole being. And like we're looking at, and I think great providers, whether medically trained, they'll always look at you as an individual, as a patient, what's important to you, what's valuable to you. And so I think that we'll see in any great provider, but I think that is something that you'll kind of see across the board for a lot of midwives in their training that we receive. It's just like like including family, including your mental health, physical health, all of those things, and looking kind of at the holistic big picture
Mm,
on how whether it's just your woman's health or is it pregnancy or is it postmenopausal symptoms we're addressing. I
mm.
think we like to kind of look at the woman as a whole.
I see. Okay.
Mhm,
Um, so something that came to my mind as you were talking, Mimi, was okay. I hope that you don't take any offense to this. It's really because I'm just curious. So I think I have it ingrained in me, right, that I like should see a doctor,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Like, and I don't know where this comes from,
Yeah.
but like from what you're saying, it sounds
Mhm.
like I should see a midwife. Like, like, because I feel like it's like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, to maybe not rush to like medication and things like that. I had a
Mhm,
very difficult pregnancy for both of my
mhm,
children. And I'm
mhm,
listening and I'm like, oh, like, why did I not know about a midwife?
mhm,
And,
mhm,
um, Yeah, so like do you have any opinions on that at all? I don't really know what I'm asking other than like, like do you like for people that maybe are thinking, "Oh, like why would I see a midwife, when I can see a doctor that's, medically trained has gone to medical school and things like that."
I think, I mean, it's the general consensus, especially I think among Asians. I think our culture has put us in a place where it's very normal for us to follow like authority,
Mm.
and where you stand on that totem pole, that kind of may make what that person says more valid in what they
Mm.
say. And you feel like, and it's not wrong because you feel like, and if that's their expertise level, they're going to provide the best information for me. And unfortunately, it is the misconception for midwives across the board. It's actually been, and I think it's worsened because, especially for midwifery, because there are a lot of lay midwives, and they are great in communities that don't have healthcare facilities available to them, like within 20, 30 minutes.
Hmm.
Um, but they do kind of, like, people just think like, oh, well, they're not going to know what's best for me. They're not going to know, how to take care of me. Like, I have all these complicated things going on. So how would they know what's going to be best for me? And
Right.
so it is a lot of it is, breaking that misconception. A lot of it is educating people, especially Asian Americans,
Mm.
because I don't know about for you, but for me, when it came to anything about my health, I knew nothing. Like, what's happening with my breast? When do I need to get exams?
Hmm.
What is a pap smear?
Right.
What is normal? What's not normal? How often do I have to go? Like, I can't talk about sex in front of a doctor or anyone because that's just hush hush and taboo. And so I think when I was exposed to it too, me personally, I was like, oh, like, I have never heard of such a thing in my life. But I think the more, I think healthcare in general, we're moving towards a movement of prevention.
Mm.
So instead of treatment, we find, and insurance companies are finding this all across, that when we can do things to prevent disease from happening, we save way more money. And then overall, it's better for the health. So I think as more people are finding out about that, they're starting to feel more comfortable with midwives. But across the board, in every single culture, midwives do have a negative,
Mm.
um, like a stigma.
Yeah.
So, but I don't take it personally, because
You
I
shouldn't.
get it like all the time.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of just like educating. And some people are still like, okay, that's great, but I still don't feel safe with you taking care of us, taking care of me, and
Mm.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I work with a great team of doctors, and I'm totally okay handing you over if we need to.
Yeah. No, I mean, thank you for coming on the podcast because I feel like just even in this first 5, 10 minutes, I've learned so much. And just a sidebar, I actually, my OBGYN is Mimi's office. So I feel like a little bit of pride in my OB right now.
Mhm, mhm,
Which, by the way, I feel like what I love about your office too is like their what how do, they did a really good job, and it is so apparent how diverse an ethnicity that your team is built, and I feel
mhm,
like they have found that so critical in caring
mhm,
for, again, the whole person, as you mentioned,
mhm. Yeah, yeah.
without even realizing it. Like me as a woman, I've never really
Mhm.
realized that it was of importance to me. And
Yeah.
especially as a second gen, like I don't want to go
Mhm,
see a first gen Korean doctor.
mhm.
And so, yes, but yeah, modern OBGYN if you need, if you live in
Yay!
Johnston.
Modern OBGYN. Um, just to toot our office's horns, we have three offices: Johns Creek, um, Avalon, and then one right in front of Northside Forsyth Hospital. And we're growing practice. It's amazing, and I've only been there for a short period of time, but it's amazing, and I truly love it. And we have like all, just like Blair said, like all ethnicities taking care of
Yes.
people. We have a Brazilian doctor. We have people coming driving from Kentucky to come see our Brazilian OBGYN. We have
Wow.
a Korean second gen OBGYN, Dr. Amy Kim. She's amazing. And then,
Amazing. She's amazing.
yeah. And then, of course, like all across the spectrum, Spanish speaking, we have um like, African American Black team members. We have like whole slew of members, and everyone is just so knowledgeable, and it's
Yes.
just a wonderful practice. So if you have any women's healthcare needs, come and find us.
Yes, no, definitely. And you can contact me if you need their information or just want another reference or review. I would be happy to give one. But anyways, so Mimi, can you take us through a typical day at Modern? What does that look like for you?
So one of the things about being a midwife is babies are born 24/7, which means we have to take 24-hour shifts.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so once a week, I have to do a 24-hour shift. And so when I'm on, that's when we're considered to be on call. And so when we're on call, we are at the hospital and we're there delivering all the babies that are supposed to be born. So um, so for deliveries, that might look like if anybody has to be induced, which means you're not quite in labor, but we have to give you medications to start the labor process. Um, whether it's because of medical indication or because you're like, I'm over being pregnant, just get this baby out.
Yeah.
Then, then we might induce your labor. Or if there's issues with like high blood pressure, gestational diabetes, the baby's too big, anything like that, that would require an induction. And so we'll give medications with to kind of help with that. And the midwife who's on call will see any vaginal delivery, high risk, low risk, going natural, no medication, all the medication, epidural, whatever. So if it's a vaginal delivery, then the midwife who's on call will be doing that delivery. And then, and even with a delivery, it could be pushing for 2 hours. It could be pushing one time. And then sometimes there can be some lacerations that happen where when the baby's coming out, the tissue tears, which happens all the time. So we can repair those lacerations. And then we also round on postpartum patients. So anybody who's had a baby with a C-section or vaginal delivery will come and see you, make sure your pain is well controlled, you're not having any issues or pain, make sure breastfeeding is going okay. Um, and then we will round between two hospitals. So Emory Johns Creek and Northside Forsyth, we're going to be kind of bouncing between both hospitals. And of course, in communication with the physician who's our backup on that day. But for 24 hours, we're just up and available to deliver any of our office's babies that are coming in for labor. So sometimes it can be some downtime where we can just chill, relax, and there's a call room we can go to with a bed and a computer. But there's other times where all the babies come together. And so seems like everyone in the practice messages each other and says, hey, let's all go into the hospital together. So there might be a 24-hour shift where I might not sit down or sleep once.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so that is the hard part about being a midwife is the schedule is very tough. But because we do one 24-hour hour shift a week, then we are in the office for 2 days out of the week, and that gives us a 40-hour week. And so in the office, Usually, I'm in the office like 8:30 to 5, and we see patients all day. Every 15 minutes, we see patients. So, whether it's prenatal visits, contraception, birth control planning, UTI symptoms, or annual exams, pap smears, anything like that.
Mm.
Um, and so, usually, that is what a day in the midwife looks like.
That is crazy. I think, especially that 24-hour shift. So basically, like, unless there's some complications with the delivery, you are literally doing everything a doctor is doing.
Yeah, yeah. And
That's
I think that's
insane.
also like a misconception a lot of people have is like, we'll be there all day doing all the work, pushing, and then at the very end, like the baby's about to come, and they're like, "When's the doctor coming?" And I'm like, "It's me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna deliver your baby."
So that's happened before? They're like, they'll ask
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's so
So,
funny.
I mean, it just goes to show like there's still very little knowledge about what midwives do. So,
Right.
yeah, it's interesting.
Oh man. So I wanted to ask, like, so how has COVID affected delivery process and all of that with these moms?
Um, well, we definitely have a lot of COVID babies. Like this is a crazy season. Um, so if you think about it, like COVID really like hit strong like February, March
Mhm.
of 2020, and now we're at February of 2021. So all the like beginning pandemic babies were born, and then when we really got into the like we're stuck in quarantine and not going anywhere, that's when everyone got busy. So
Mhm.
now all those babies are being born. So all the babies who got,
Oh my gosh,
all
that's so
the,
funny.
yeah, all the couples who got busy in April, May, like
Yeah,
this is the time now. Um,
that is
and
so hilarious.
so for labor and delivery, it is crazy. Like
Yeah.
every shift, we have 4 to 6, 7 patients delivering. So it's a lot. In the hospital settings, though, it is kind of it's different because now, because of COVID, for a while, a lot of hospitals weren't allowing any visitors or anything like that.
Mm.
And so, luckily, not in Georgia, but like even in New York, where COVID was, so horrible, the moms were having to deliver without their significant others, their husbands, their partners. Um, so I mean, I can't imagine how traumatizing that would be, like to be in that setting where you're in the most pain you've ever felt in your life. You're about to deliver your baby and you're by yourself. But luckily in Georgia, it never got to that point, but
Okay.
they did cut out all other visitors. You were just allowed one support person. So whether that's your mom, usually it's dad, father of the baby, or partner, whoever it is, usually one person. And then they can go out to get food here and there, but they don't want that person to go in and out, in and out.
Mm.
And then for a little bit, they were, if you were having a boy, normally a circumcision is done before you go home. And so for a little bit, anybody who was COVID positive was not allowed to get a circumcision. Um,
Oh.
and so that was hard on a lot of families just because the older the baby gets, the harder it is for the baby to tolerate the circumcision. So they realized that was happening. So they kind of let that go. And it's more because it's the tough part is if a circumcision has to be done, it has to be done in the nursery. And if it's a COVID positive mom, they would have to completely clear out the nursery and then leave it unused because of like sanitizing and timing and things like that. Um, so how we practice is a little bit different. Now we're in a mask 24/7.
God.
Um, and so that's rough. And moms have to push for several hours with a mask on. So
Stop.
that's
Oh my
really hard.
goodness. I can't
Yeah.
even imagine. Like,
Yeah. And
I
it's
just want to
hard
throw up
enough.
thinking about it, honestly.
It's hard enough, like, pushing, like, you're in like, with pushing, I think everyone's different, but, like, it's literally the sensation of, like, a bowling ball coming out of your, your vagina.
Mm.
So, it is intense, and you want to be focused, but, like, you have a mask all in your face, like, it is so hard. But those are some things that have changed, because
So
of
do
COVID.
the moms take a test before they deliver then? Okay, I
So
see.
every single person is required to get a COVID swab when they come into the hospital, or if we have to do like a planned, like induction or a C-section, then 3 days before the procedure, they have to get the COVID swab done.
I see.
And
I see.
so that is more for protection for like the healthcare workers, nurses,
Sure.
so
Yes.
that if you are COVID positive, you can still like we would be extra gowned up, like we're going into space, like gown, cap, goggles, mask, N95, shoe cover, glove, like it is pretty intense. But so yeah, so every single person does have to get COVID tested, but partners, dads do not have to get COVID tested.
That makes me want to cry. I don't know why.
I
I think just like
know.
it's just even for you, like the
Hmm.
provider, like
Hmm.
um I didn't think about you guys during all this,
Hmm.
like, and it's just like so crazy. Even, you
Hmm.
guys are putting your lives on the line as well with your own families. And so
Hmm.
thank you, Mimi. So,
Oh yeah.
and you're like bringing life into the world at the same time. It's like
Yeah.
so crazy. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know, I guess, we've been talking a lot about your day to day and what it looks like to be a midwife, but yeah, did you always know you wanted to do this? At what point in your life? And like, yeah, can you take us back a little bit to the beginning of when you decided to take this path?
Yeah, so I had no idea what I wanted to do in life. Absolutely no idea. So when I went to Georgia State for my bachelor's, and I was like, I'm gonna do business. I literally just like picked something. And
Mm.
then in business, I was like, none of this is like interesting to me at all. And so I always knew I wanted to use knowledge that I've learned and help people. So I found myself kind of drifting towards still in business, but more the hospitality industry. So
Mm.
I actually am a certified nurse, wedding planner.
What? For real?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I so I was thinking like, oh, weddings, it's such a beautiful event. It's amazing. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to be a wedding planner. So that is actually what I first started my initial career in. And I learned very quickly, like I worked for, it was like the movie, The Wedding Planner. Like I worked for like a mega company. We had like, we didn't have like things in our suit jackets, but we had this like huge duffel bag
Mm.
where like you would roll out this like organizer, and it had everything like socks, fake bouquet, like anything, medication,
Right, right, right.
like whatever you can think of for wedding, like we had it, and it was like insane. Like the amount of money that people put into weddings, like it
Yes.
was like standard 40,000 on flowers,
Hmm,
boom, go, yeah,
that's
and it was
crazy.
just insane. Um, it was the worst job I have ever
Oh,
done in my life.
mm,
I think it's just so sad because the industry, like you put wedding in front of anything and they upcharge it like 900%. And they know it, and they know, and they'll market it like, oh, it's your one day, it's your special day. So, you can spend all your money and take out a loan. It's okay. So I
it's
really
not
didn't like
okay,
that.
people. It's not okay.
Not
Trust me.
okay. So I think just seeing that, I was just so like turned off by the industry, and I just felt like everyone was just ripping people off.
Mm.
And it turned to this like amazing, beautiful thing to just like a big money maker. And so it pissed me off. And so I was like, okay, this is not right for me, but I still had no idea what I wanted to do in life. And then randomly, a friend of mine, I was visiting a friend of mine, and he introduced me to a family friend, and she worked as a nurse. And one day she was like, "Hey, you should just come over and see what I do." And I had no idea anything about healthcare, anything. And she actually worked as a mother baby nurse. So the nurse who takes care of moms and babies after delivery. And she was in the women's center, and she was just like holding a baby, and she was just going through the circulation of a baby. Like it was amazing. So just how a baby goes from being inside the womb, breathing in like fluid, and then all of a sudden gets squeezed out through delivery and then is able to all of a sudden breathe air. You know, it's just
Mm.
crazy to think
Yes,
about the
yes.
change that a baby goes through. Then you think about, oh my gosh, a woman carried this baby that started as like little egg, and now it's like an actual baby,
Right.
that turns into an adult. And so she was just explaining that to me, and I was like, I think in my senior year of business school, and that senior year, I was like, nope, not business school. I'm going to go into nursing. And so I was like, okay, it's such a waste. I can't just like, I'm in my senior year. So I went ahead and like rushed through all my classes, finished my degree, and then I went straight into prerequisites. And like, I was not like science minded at all because I was
Mm.
taking like geology, astrology for my science classes. So I had to take all the
Oh,
prerequisites for like
man.
chemistry, microbiology, anatomy, all of those. And then got into nursing school at Kennesaw State. And um, and then with labor and delivery, like you have to, as a nursing student, you have to make rounds to different, different units. So you kind of have idea of what kind of nursing you want to practice. And I went to my rotation for labor and delivery was at Grady, like in the ghetto, rough,
Right.
low income, low education patients, and just anybody's coming through the door. But the first time I had a delivery, I was with a Hispanic family, and like my Spanish is horrible because I never took Spanish, but I was witnessing a birth happening, and the mom was amazing. She was so peaceful. She had an epidural, but she was like very peaceful. She was in control. She was like listening to the doctor. It was a resident at Grady, and the baby was being born, and I was like hugging the dad. I was like bawling. I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. And the dad was kind of like, who is this like Asian girl just clinging on to me? But I was just like in tears because I was just so amazed
Wow.
at like the journey of like life being born and coming
Yes,
into the world.
yes.
And so like when I saw that happen, I'm a Christian, and I like when you see it happen, you cannot deny God. Whatever you believe in, like when you see birth and happening, like you cannot deny that like God was a part of every single step of the way.
Wow.
And so it was just amazing. And then once I had that rotation, I was like, I don't care about anything else. This is what I want to do. Labor and delivery. That's it. Labor and delivery.
Mm.
And so I got through nursing school, but labor and delivery is a specialty field. So you usually, unless like you got training during school, you won't be able to get in as a new grad. And so I got to practice nursing in like random areas like cardiac health and like general bedside nursing. And then finally, I had the opportunity to enter into labor and delivery. And so I started out in the ghetto, Atlanta Medical Center downtown, and also a rough hospital, but they have they have the most amazing midwives in the world, like amazing. And that's where I first learned about what a midwife was.
Wow.
So, like all of a sudden they would come in, and Atlanta Medical Center is one of the few hospitals that actually does or allows for water births to happen. So we have a lot of patients who are coming for unmedicated deliveries with a midwife. And so, they would deliver babies in all types of positions, like in the shower, squatting, like one leg up, or, it
I
wasn't
cannot
what
even,
you,
like, fathom this, like, only because I've been there, but, like, it would be a different story if I've never had kids, but I'm just trying. I like this. That's something. For those of you that
yeah.
never had children, that's something. Okay, but anyways.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think like we think about birth happening like in movies. It's like always this crazy scene, like, what baby's coming,
Yeah.
and like everyone's screaming and yelling, and like it's just a crazy scene. And sometimes it can get like that, but majority of the births are pretty like very like chill, especially if there's an epidural involved. You're just like, hmm, okay, bush, and then
Yeah.
that's it. Um, but the midwives there were amazing, like so knowledgeable, and like they didn't care where you came from. They didn't care what
Mhm.
color your skin you had. They didn't care if you were educated or you were not, if you were rich, you were poor. They took care of every single patient like it was their daughter, their sister, their friend,
Mm.
their best friend, their mom. And so like that's where I learned like, oh man, like they have a special connection with these patients, and they get to be a part of this amazing moment where their child is being born. And um, like it was just amazing, and I learned so much. And when I first saw what a midwife did, I was like, oh my God, that's what I want to do.
Mm.
But then I was like, dang, I screwed myself, because when I was in nursing school, I was like, okay, I'm never going back to school again. I'm going to be a labor and delivery nurse, and I'm good. And
Yeah.
so I just kind of like squeaked by school, didn't do very well. My GPA was horrible. Um, and now I learned that to be a midwife, you have to go through more school.
Oh, of
And
course, of course.
I did not have the credentials to get in, but I knew like this is what God had called me to be. Like
Mhm.
I was so convicted and passionate about it. So I applied everywhere, all across the nation. And I got a lot of rejections. And so a nursing degree is a bachelor's of science in nursing.
Okay.
And then you get licensed in your state that you live in. As a registered nurse. And then to become a midwife, you go through a master's program. Um, and then you have to get licensed again through that. So you hold a registered nurse license and then a certified nurse license.
Mm.
Um, and so, but finally, there was one school in New York, Stony Brook University, that decided to give me a chance. And thank God they did not just look at my GPA, but they actually interviewed people, just like they did Skype then. They didn't have Zoom back then, but they interviewed me and asked me what my passions were, and I just went on and on and on and on and on. And I was like, I know my grades aren't the greatest, but I know I can do this, and like I will make you proud, and blah blah blah. And so they gave me a chance, and so I graduated with my midwifery degree in 2017.
Okay. And how long is that program, Mimi?
Um, so it ranges from like yeah, 2 to 3 years. Sometimes it's a little bit more accelerated, but about 2 to 3 years of additional schools on top of like if you have a bachelor, we would need a bachelor's 4 years, 2 years of master's.
Mm, okay, okay.
hmm There are some programs like in Georgia, there's a really cool program that takes you straight through. So you go and get at Emory, you go and get your bachelor's in nursing, and then you go straight through and get your midwifery or a nurse practitioner license or something like that. And I think that is like a 4 or 5 year program, like
Okay, all the
total.
way in total, I see.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm, mhm.
but I guess you would kind of have to know like what you wanted though, if you wanted to do that kind of program, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Some people like, I don't know if you've ever heard of a nurse practitioner. A nurse practitioner similar to like a primary care physician, but they're also like registered nurses who have entered into, becoming providers.
Hmm, hmm.
So it's similar schooling, and so some people are nurses and they're like, oh, I definitely want to kind of further my degree. Um, and then, so yeah, so I think definitely midwifery is like a specialty field, and it's majorly dominated by women. There's
Mm.
like 1% male, but if you think about it, there's also male OBGYNs.
Yes.
But male midwives are not as popular, unfortunately. But I think they would be amazing, and it's
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
more needed. And then, of course, we look at the population, and we definitely don't see a lot of Asian midwives. Definitely not many Korean midwives.
Mm.
And so I think it's so important uh, for, if anyone's interested in the field to kind of just, if it's an inkling of a passion, like definitely go for it because we have, especially as Asians and Korean Americans, we have so many things in our culture that like either we need to break away from or we need to uplift because it's so
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
Like being Korean, like if you have a baby, you're not allowed to wear short sleeves, even if it's 120 degrees outside, and you can't eat large chunks of meat because
Oh,
your
girl, my
teeth are gonna
mom
fall
wouldn't
out.
let me open the refrigerator. I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
what is that? Like,
yeah.
what will
They don't
happen
want
to
you.
me if I open the
Yeah,
refrigerator?
like I was told I can't eat big chunks of meat because my teeth
Yes.
would fall out.
Mhm.
Like um and like just weird things like that, and like you have to eat miyokuk or seaweed soup every day 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's all you can eat after you have a baby. Or contraception, like no, you're gonna get STDs, or
Mm.
I don't know, it's gonna mess with your hormones and you're never gonna be able to have get pregnant ever. Like so many things we don't know, but then great things, with having people there and helping, like family helping after a baby's born. And so I think if we can have more midwives available, Korean, Chinese, whatever, Asian American, I think we can really direct our care to the moms based on your culture, but also kind of correct the things that may not be so true. So it's definitely a huge need. So if there's anybody who has like an inkling of a desire to work with women on a daily basis, I highly, highly, highly recommend it because it is amazing.
Yes, no, I mean, you make me want to be a midwife. Honestly, I mean, I would never because that's just not, I can't see myself doing that. But like, I mean, your heart and passion for what you do, Mimi, I'm just so inspired by it in itself. And what you said, I just want to echo that. Like, I do feel that, I mean, in a lot of the interviews I've been doing, I have been highlighting Asian Americans for that reason. It's like I think there just needs to be more representation, and especially what you're saying now as a woman myself. As I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, it matters, like how you talk to the person. They know where you're coming from. They know what your mom and dad are saying at home about what you should and shouldn't do. And I think, yeah, if if you have questions, like please, like Mimi is the one to talk to, I feel like, because she definitely has some answers for you. But I wanted to go back briefly to your experience at midwifery school. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
um, like so, I mean, with what you say that you're able to do as a midwife in the OBGYN office, I mean, I'm imagining it's like medical school. Like, except with the exception of a few other things, like like round, like I don't know what you do actually. I don't know what medical students do, but like do you have like residency and stuff or?
Yeah, yeah. So It's pretty similar, but when we're looking at midwifery, like we're really focused on women's health.
Sure.
So we're looking at like when we're looking at pharmacy and drugs and medications, we're specifically looking at like how does this affect the breastfeeding mom, the mom who is hypertensive and who has a history of blood clots and smokes
Mm,
and um, or like how does this affect breastfeeding moms or does this medication cross over to the babies, but on top of that we also focus on like medications, really specific to women, like
mm,
hormone therapy, contraceptions, birth control. So we go through all like similar classes. Like we'll definitely go through like an intense anatomy and physiology course where we know like the ins and outs of how every major organ works and how major circulation system works. Um, so you'll usually go through like every nurse practitioner program or midwifery program will have like certain core courses that they would go through, but it's
mhm.
kind of sometimes tailored to really what you're going to be focusing on. And then, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I think my AirPods might be running out of battery, but
Oh,
okay.
that's okay.
Okay. Um, but I'm going to charge one if that's
Okay.
okay. Um, Sorry, segue. Um, but also we do go through clinical. So my program was mainly online and I would have to do like all the didactics and like learning online with textbooks and lectures online. And
Okay.
then like every 3 or 4 times a semester, I would have to go to New York and, and then do like learn skills like suturing and placing IUDs and sorry, I use my hands a lot and this is not appropriate. I'm sorry. Like placing IUDs, doing physical exams, breast
Mm,
exams, things like that. So you do learn those skills. And then while you're in school, you do have to complete clinicals where you are paired up with a professional, like working certified nurse midwife. And you have rotations that you have to do and certain requirements you have to meet. So you have to see so many postmenopausal patients. You have to see so many menopausal patients, puberty patients, contraception, STD testing, deliveries. There's a certain number of deliveries you have to go through, and you have to kind of pass all of these certain things. Um, and then the person that you're following, they have to say like, okay, yes, this person is okay to do this. No, this person needs more training. And so, the majority of the time that you are in school, probably like the later year, is all clinicals, like being in the hospital, seeing patients and things like
okay.
that. So it's kind of similar, but we don't get as broad of as training that you would do with medical school, where and we don't get trained in surgery usually.
Mm-mm. I mean, yes, it's not as broad, but to me, it kind of sounds nice, especially if you know what you want to do and you can like, kind of focus mainly on those things. So, wow, that's really incredible. Like, I had no
Yeah,
idea. I had no clue.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
is a doula different than a midwife?
Yeah, so a doula is basically like a birthing coach. So they're
Ah,
usually
okay.
not medically trained.
Okay, okay.
They can help you through the labor process. And there's different types of doulas. There's like a
Mhm.
postpartum doula. There's a sex therapist doula or something like that. So there's all different
Ah,
types of
okay.
doulas,
Okay.
but there for them it's just being there like as an assistant to help with relaxation, especially for moms who are trying to go natural. So you see them mostly in like labor settings, but they do not have any like medical authority or anything or licensure or I mean there is like licensing that happens for a doula, but you're not able to do deliveries or anything like that. They're really there to just kind of help you through the birthing process. And there are some like amazing doulas that are
Uh-huh.
out there, but I think there is a lot of a clash sometimes with doulas um, and midwives and like nursing and hospital staff because the doulas just have it in their minds, like, we're gonna go natural no matter what. I don't care what you have to
Mm.
say. I don't care about the safety. We gotta go natural. And so sometimes it can cause a clash. Um, but the great doulas are amazing and they will help moms, whether they're going natural or not, like help them walk them through the labor process.
Mm.
Um, and so right now, unfortunately, it's really hard for doulas because the hospitals are not allowing them to come into the labor
Right,
room.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Um, so because of that, that's kind of difficult. But like for the mom who's delivering at home, or there's like great postpartum doulas, they can come in and help you with breastfeeding. They can help like they'll sometimes even do like take shifts. So you can sleep at night and then they can take care of the baby. And they'll have like great herbs and oils available to kind of help with massage. And if you're
Mm.
suffering with like aches and pains where they can kind of help moms through that process. Because if you think about it, like dads have no idea, and
Right,
they're just like
right.
thrown into this thing. And so they're supposed to support moms, but they have no idea like what they're supposed to do, like what they're supposed to say, and even us as moms, when we're going through the process, we don't know what we're gonna need. And sometimes we're like, we think like, oh, them soft touching us when we're in excruciating pain is gonna be nice. And then they do it and they're like, get away from me. No, no, don't touch me. Other times, they might need to be your dance partner, or they might need to like be your, cheerleader and be like, you got this, But a lot of dads have, it's hard for them because it's not like they sit around with some beers and be like, hey, so for the labor,
Yeah.
what are y'all gonna do, And so I think in those kind of settings, especially
Yeah.
when things can get pretty overwhelming, intense, I think a doula is awesome,
Yes.
but their roles are a little bit
Okay,
different.
yeah, I mean, it's not the same. I
Mhm.
just know that term from somebody that I knew a long time ago who she expressed to me that she wanted to be a doula, and I just kind of put for again, in my ignorance, categorize these things, midwife and doula together. So thank you for
Yeah,
clarifying that for me. Um,
yeah,
Mimi, we've been chatting for a little while now, and do you have some more time to chat a little bit longer? Is that okay?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
well, I know that
totally.
you do have a beautiful family, Andrew, who I've known for a very long time, and your beautiful daughter, Umbi. How old is she now?
She's two. She
You.
just turned 2, February 3rd.
That's right. You guys have like birthdays next to each other, right?
Yeah, we
That's
do.
so precious. Oh my goodness. Um, has she started her like terrific twos yet, or is she just entering, or is she just a great
Oh,
baby, or like?
terrific is a hard word for
Right.
me.
I just call him that, but
Yes, yes. It's terrific because I have never seen such a rambunctious little human in my life.
oh,
But yeah, she is Unbi. She's 2. She is feisty, but independent. But she's also super sweet and happy and very curious. Um, and so she's amazing. And so actually, the reason our birthdays are actually a day apart. So I'm February 2nd, and Unbi is February 3rd. And the reason for that is my blood pressure during my pregnancy with Aviv was out the roof. And the doctor said, okay, we're going to have to deliver. And I was like, okay, can we just push it off one day, please?
oh my
Because
gosh.
I didn't want to have the same birthday.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but a reason that my blood pressure was so high was I actually have a son in heaven, and he was born February 9th of 2018. So unfortunately, we experienced a loss
Mm.
at 36 weeks in 2018 with our firstborn. His name is Unhyung, um, and so the beginning of February has always been tough time for me.
Mm.
Not, prior to pregnancy, but um, with the loss of our son in 2018, it was sudden. And me working as a midwife, I was a new midwife at that time. And so you just never think when you're working in the industry, like you hear about these things happening, stillborns happening, loss happening, but you just never think that it would happen to you.
Sure,
And
yeah.
just randomly one day, everything was going fine. And one day, I was at work and I didn't feel much movement for the baby.
Mm,
And we did an ultrasound and we found there was no heartbeat.
mm,
Um, and so I was like so just thrown off. I think the minute you get pregnant, whether it's 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 40 weeks, there is an expectancy that you have. You know, when you get pregnant, you have this like joy of expecting a baby coming in, and it's half, half of your genes and half of your partner's genes, and you just have this like joy and expectancy, and so you just never expect to experience a loss. And so at 36 weeks we found out, and I was so devastated, and Andrew was devastated, and it was just so like we just could not believe that this was happening. And unfortunately, because I was at 36 weeks, I still had to deliver a full
that's
board baby.
insane.
Um, but we never got to hear him cry.
Mm,
And so, me being a midwife, I decided like we had to induce that labor. And so we had to get medications to kind of start the labor process. And so I decided I wanted to go natural with Eunyoung so I could kind of see what it's like to have a baby naturally. And so thank God the labor was actually not as long. I think it was less than 24 hours. So I'm so thankful for that. And we never found any reason for or the cause of the loss. And so the only thing was that he was a little bit small, but I was also small. And there was something called a marginal cord insertion, where if we if anybody's ever seen a picture of a placenta, it's like a round organ looking thing, and then there's like a umbilical cord that's attached to the baby that's in the center of the placenta,
mm,
and that's like all the where all the nutrients for the baby comes through.
mhm.
The only thing was that the cord was like inserted on the edge of the placenta instead of in the center, which is very common, usually not anything that would cause any issues. That was the only thing. The genetic testing was all normal. There was nothing that showed any reason for it. So I
Mm,
think at that time it was even harder for me to understand, like, what did I do wrong?
right.
Why would this happen?
Mm,
Um, and so it was very easy for me, I think even for Andrew to like build up, you know, bitterness and resentment towards God. Um, but when he was born, he was perfect. And he just looked happy and so peaceful. And so I think God just wanted to protect him and wanted him early next to
mm,
him. So we definitely, always have him in our memory and our thoughts. And so after that happened, we were not planning on getting pregnant, and I was totally okay, like not getting pregnant ever. I was fine with just me and Andrew. We have two dogs. I was happy with that.
mm,
And then of course, like the one time we had sex, like
mm.
we got pregnant, and it was like pretty soon after the delivery. So we had Unyoung February, and then we got pregnant in June. So
Wow.
literally, like the first time we were cleared
Right.
after our
After
postpartum visit,
postpartum, yeah.
like the one time we were like, what could happen? And of course, we got pregnant. And
Mm.
I honestly think getting pregnant, I was, hold on, sorry. Hello.
Hello.
Okay. I was not excited at all. I was actually kind of mad, and I was like,
Mm,
"What the heck, God? Why? I can't go through this again." And so, and then the due date, it turned out. was going to be a month apart from Unyoung's delivery time. And so I was like, I was a mess throughout that pregnancy. I was so anxious. And I think I went into it like every day saying, this is the day I'm going to lose my baby. This is the day I'm going to lose my
Oh
baby,
my
you
god.
know? And so every day I was just a mess. And I think that is definitely a reason my blood pressure just
Right,
started to
right.
skyrocket, especially as we got close to that 35-week mark. Um, I was just so anxious because it was so unexpected the first time. I was just thinking like, okay, it's going to happen again no matter what. And so, but,
Oh,
I think God,
I'm so sorry, Mimi. I
you
just,
know,
before I forget my question,
mm,
um, eh, I'm curious, did you feel that way because, like, is there a higher risk for that if you've experienced it the first time?
yeah, yeah. So if
Okay.
you've experienced and it's called a IUFD or intrauterine fetal demise. So, a miscarriage is usually anything that happens less than 20 weeks. And then anything after 20 weeks is considered a fetal demise. So
Okay.
a death of the fetus. And so, anytime there is a history of a fetal demise, there is a high chance of it possibly happening again.
I
And
see.
so you're
Okay.
definitely considered a high risk pregnancy. And so you have to be monitored a little bit closer and you have to meet with like a specialist and like it's a lot more monitoring just because of that history.
Okay,
Hmm.
sorry. And so you were saying you felt like that was probably why your blood pressure was skyrocketing. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so as a midwife too, like I'm sure you're so much more aware, right, of like what's happening.
yeah, for sure. And I think, sorry, I'm going to switch to non AirPods.
No problem.
Um, Hello? Okay.
Yes, great.
Um, yeah, so I was like, just, I don't know. I think the tough part was after Unhyung's delivery, we thankfully got a bereavement period.
Mm,
And in that time, Andrew and I, we went through counseling and things like that. But I had to go back to work, and my work is delivering babies.
yeah.
And so I think the hardest thing I ever had to do was 6 weeks after I lost Danielle, I had to go into the delivery room, put a smile on my face, and deliver another baby.
Mm,
And I remember like the one thing, like Andrew and I kept saying after Eunhyung was born, like we were holding him and we were just saying like, okay, like cry now. You can cry, like just cry for us. And we never saw that, or heard that happening. And so to go into a delivery room, like hear a heartbeat, doom, 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 doom. And then we go through the delivery. It was a beautiful delivery. Everything went very smoothly. And then hearing that baby cry, it was just so heartbreaking for me. But I couldn't, you know, just break down in front of my patients. I just had to, put a smile on and then just keep going. And so I think that was so hard. And it definitely made working as a midwife hard.
mm,
But then I think for some reason in that season, our practice, my previous practice that I was with, experienced a lot of fetal demises. And I think my
really?
practice, yeah, we don't know what it was, but my practice was trying to protect me and saying like, you know what, you don't have to go to that delivery. You don't have to. But
Mm,
like, I felt like these were one of the reasons why like God put me in this position,
mm,
is like I can like truly understand like the pain these mothers are going through, the pain these dads are going through. And like I may not be able to say anything to them. I might not be able to give them any reasoning or I can't say anything, but all I could say was like, I'm here with you and like I know your pain and you have every right to cry and be
mm.
angry, but I'm here to do that with you. And so whether it was a miscarriage at like 5 weeks or a fetal loss later on, I think it's definitely shown me that every birth is truly a miracle and a blessing. And like, in the Bible verse where it says that like God breathed life into me, and knew my name in my womb, in my mother's womb, we think about that, and I think it's truly like every single baby that's conceived is, truly like such a miracle, a blessing. And
Yeah.
when we have hard moments as moms and our kids are driving us nuts, we just have to be reminded that like God, chose us to be the mothers of our children, but also raised our children and carried them through to where they are today. And like, and if there is someone who has experienced loss, who has experienced infertility, who has experienced, multiple miscarriages, anything like that, like know that like the Lord is there and present in your womb, and He is present there with every single one of your babies, whether on earth or in heaven. And we may not know the reasons behind some of these things, but like God is holding all of our babies so close to Him. And so that is definitely a word of encouragement for anyone who is struggling with any of those things. And even for future moms out there, you know, just know that your bodies are amazing and God has created your bodies to do amazing things. So like when you want to beat yourself up about your weight or you're not living up to social standards, like just know that like women were created to be so special and amazing. And, and like God has really created us to like carry out one of his greatest commandments of creating babies. So, so, women are amazing. And I feel so blessed that I have this experience
Mm.
and continue to make more experiences in my life and bless other people.
Yeah, no, I mean, oh my gosh, Mimi. Like I'm speechless, really, because I've heard yours and Andrew's story before, and to have you come on and share it with us, with on this platform with me. First of all, thank you for your transparency and your vulnerability. But I mean, as a mom myself, I again, like I cannot wrap my head around what you and Andrew went through. But, praise the Lord that you guys are followers of Jesus to be able to see the purpose of Eunyoung, right? And his purpose in this life and now in heaven. And even, yeah, you guys just being able to be the light in that kind of darkness and that kind of trauma, if pardon the term, but it is, it is what it is. And I feel like I'm so blessed to even know you that, yeah, like, I think, it's so easy to go to a place of like, even people like kind of almost like it didn't happen.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, no, it did. And, that's where the healing and the life comes back. And I'm
Mhm.
just so grateful for you. And I'm not even gonna pretend I know what it's like, because obviously I
Mhm.
don't. But I thank you for being that voice in our community, to be able to share that story, and for moms that are probably feeling really alone, in this
Mhm.
situation. Please,
Mhm.
if you are hearing this, I know that Andrew and Mimi, they have a heart for you. For you, they have a heart
Mhm.
for you. So please feel free to connect. Is that all right, Mimi? For me?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I don't, I usually like try to keep our time to an hour, and I'm sorry for taking up so much of your time. You're like a busy like midwife with a family to take care of. So I'm so honored that you even took the time to come on today. Um, any last words? Any advice for somebody maybe thinking like, hey, this might be for me? Any advice you could give them real quick?
I would say, like, um, everyone who enters into midwifery, they're always like, "Oh my god, the schedule." The schedule is rough, but,
Mm,
um, I think the things that I think are the hardest is knowing that, like, I'm always gonna be on call, whether, when my family is going through a special event or, my daughter is doing a dance recital or something like that, and I'm gonna have moments where I miss out on those things.
mm,
So I think that would be the real setback of the career as a midwife.
right, right.
But the blessing is that you get to be a part of like like the family's like such an important part of a family's like timeline, and I just see like God, like I feel like every single delivery, like God is just present and just like kissing on those babies, and so it is just such a like almost like a holy experience
Mhm.
where God is just so present. And so if anyone has questions or concerns or is, even just contemplating, like hit me up. I'm totally open. And it's such an amazing field to be in, to be working with women on a daily basis. I honestly cannot do men's parts and kids at
Yeah.
all. So, but women, I'm like, I can handle it all day.
Yeah.
And um, so yeah, like if you have a heart for women, it's an amazing field. You get to kind of dibble in everything. You get to kind of do like office work, seeing patients. You get to be in like more adrenaline racing, like emergency type situations. You get to be in deliveries. You still get some days off during the week. So that's super nice to do. And like my days off, I lounge and don't do anything. And and yeah, and then anybody who wants to talk to me or my husband about our journey, please feel free to reach out to us. My social media game is not very strong, but like I'm on Instagram and I will send Blair the link.
Yes.
And Andrew is also on Instagram. But overall, we love to just, share in life with anyone, whether you have kids or not, married, not, whatever the life journey is, we love to kind of be there together and enjoy life together. So would love to just talk with you and hang out. We love good food, and we love working out. So we live in Cummings, but we're open to going anywhere to hang out with people. So yeah, thank you so much, Blair, for this time. I feel so like cool that I get
I
to share
know.
what I do for
No, I
work.
feel cool. I'm like, yes, like this is amazing. So great. Thank you so much again, Mimi. I really appreciate it. Hey, you guys, if you have comments about this episode, and like Mimi said, feel free to reach out. You can DM me or DM her. I'll connect you guys. Or you can email me at podcastwigu@gmail.com. All right, guys, until next time. Thanks, Mimi. Bye.
Thank you.